All right, everybody, we're coming back from the break. It's called the Business to Business Network Show. My name is Rex Perry. If you just turned on your radio or tuning in to us, we talk business, politics, and economics. We talk a lot about real estate because it is the lifeblood of Maricopa County, and it's how a lot of business gets made and done. And our guests are Mike. Give us your last name. Introduce yourself, please.
Mike Mazzucco, live in the East Valley, been a real estate agent since 2017.
Excellent. And Mark?
Mark Mazzucco, brother of Mike Mazzucco, and I've been in the Valley, born and raised, and I'm a mortgage loan officer.
So it's nice to have the agent and the lender working as a team there.
Yeah, there are definitely some perks for me, some perks for clients too. So
excellent. And Chris, introduce yourself, please.
I'm Chris Cself, grew up in the Valley, moved around a little bit, but we're back now, and I'm with WFG National Title.
Fantastic. Let's talk a little bit about the real estate market and different projects you're working on. Give us some background on what you're doing.
Yeah, so I do traditional real estate sales, but kind of on more of a personal side. You know, I'm a pretty avid investor, so really focus on multiple revenue streams. You know, we get pretty heavy on subsidized housing. We do some assisted living, hard money lending. We have a partnership with a title company. So yeah, we kind of got our hands on in a little bit of everything.
Let's talk about the assisted, where government, where the government subsidized that. A lot of people, a lot of landlords say, no. Tell us your experience with this.
Yeah. So, in my opinion, a lot of people who talk negatively about it, they've never done it. And it's definitely not for everybody, but, it's not just Section 8. There's some Arizona-specific programs out there, too. But basically, the government, city, municipalities, charities, they're providing funding for people to rent from you. And so especially when there's constraint in the rental market, or like let's take COVID, when COVID happened and there was all these rent memorandums happening, those programs still keep paying. And so it's a great way to kind of diversify your portfolio where you don't have to worry about like where your rent money's coming.
And a lot of times the tenant is much more sensitive to make sure they take care of things because they want to keep that good status. Have you had that experience?
Yes and no. Within that umbrella, there are what's considered like permanent supportive housing arrangements, and then there's kind of like temporary where, hey, there's someone that's in distress. We're going to come give them like 6 to 12 months of funding to get them back on their feet. Historically speaking, that latter bucket, I tend to have less success with in terms of like higher eviction rates and stuff. But the ones that do have the long-term support, great outcomes, because like, yeah, if they aren't performing, if they aren't being coherent with the program expectations, they have a voucher which sometimes covers 100% of their rent. That's kind of on the line if they're not doing what they need to do.
So they really need to do their part to take good care of the property to retain that voucher.
Exactly.
Because they're like gold. They're really hard to get.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So when you find the right tenant, like I've had some that are still in my unit since 2017, and they're fantastic tenants. But you do have to still go through and select ones that meet your criteria. You can be a little bit more forgiving on some of your rental criteria if they're not having to cover their own rent, though, right? Like that takes a huge portion off your plate. Sometimes some of these programs will cover full 1.5 times rent for their security deposit. They'll give damage claim waivers where they'll even go above that and cover up to like 3x rent. They'll give move-in incentives and things like that to kind of like incentivize you to work with these programs. So there's tends to be a lot of upside if you go down that path. It's not every property I wouldn't say is the ideal fit for that. Like, but for certain areas and certain rental properties, they do bode really well for that kind of asset class.
Fantastic. When it comes to financing for non-owner occupied investor financing, what kind of rates, what kind of programs have we got out there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So typically, you're looking at the same type of, you can either qualify using your income, but you can also use what the rental income that's going to be coming in. So there's a lot of options available, even if you don't have the income to afford a house. On the investment side, you can purely go off of what the rent income is.
And how about this Airbnb type season, vacation rentals? Do you have financing for stuff like that?
Yeah, so I feel like over the last few years, as Airbnb has really picked up, there's a lot more investors out there that are interested in these properties. So now you can actually use what AirDNA says that it's going to compute out to There's also rental appraisals that you can do to get some of that rental income and actually use that for your rental analysis and then qualify with that income. So,
Excellent. And Chris, give us a little bit of your background. You actually do a variety of different things in marketing, putting things
I
together.
do.
Tell us about you.
Yeah, so I grew up in the business. Actually, my dad was the first Remax franchisee in Arizona
that's
back in
right.
the early '80s. So yeah, I really don't know anything different. But
Yeah.
I started in real estate in '99, and then about 6 years later, in 2005, I started on this side of the business and never looked back.
And tell us a little bit of what you do.
So my goal is to build relationships with realtors primarily. Purchase business is our bread and butter, and handle their closings.
So you're looking to network with agents, bring assets to them, help them with the marketing.
However, I can bring value.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
And let's swing back over on the Airbnb things. Have you got any of the Airbnb? What's your opinion on that?
So Airbnb is a great question. With that big beautiful bill that just passed, if anyone's doing cost segregation and bonus depreciation, that kind of stuff, it just brought that back. So I would say it's becoming very relevant again from a investment portfolio strategy where some of our higher income earners are looking for ways to eliminate their tax liability for the year. And so for just at a high level, you could go buy an Airbnb. There's a whole Airbnb loophole where you can go and you can write off maybe, let's say, a third of that purchase price all on your tax return to offset other 1040, other income that flows onto your 1040 return. So it's becoming very relevant again because of that big, beautiful bill that got passed.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So actually Airbnb is becoming a very good opportunity investment for people that are looking for some sort of tax shelter.
It's probably the number one tax strategy out there. When you see all the social media stuff where all these CPAs talk about all these secrets, this is the secret they're talking about.
Interesting. When it comes to working with investors, what kind of down payment, what kind of loan to value, LTV is what we use? Give us an idea what's out there.
yeah, so if you're buying it purely as an investment, 20% down is typically the gold standard minimum. And then just goes up from there. If you're buying a duplex or a triplex, it requires a little bit more down. And then it kind of plays around with what the rates are, which typically are anywhere from 0.5% to 1% above what the normal conventional rates are.
How's the debt to income ratio? How does that? Are we negative now because the interest rates are high? Where are we at?
Yeah, so like I said earlier, if you are buying purely off of your income to qualify, then the limits stay the same. They're below 50% DTI. But if you're using rental income, it purely looks at what you're going to make for rent and offsets it. So as long as it's a 1-to-1 ratio, that's
Break
typically
even.
If you break even, they will allow that loan to pass.
So they're going to calculate how much revenue you're going to collect and compare it to what the monthly payment, principal, interest, tax, PITA, right?
Yes,
Not just PNI.
correct.
So the whole, and as long as that's a break even, getting the loan with 20% down is pretty much easy to go. And again, if you do the Airbnb, those rents they project quite higher, don't they?
Yeah, they definitely help. I mean, it's one of those things that if you had to take, with rates where they're at, it definitely puts some pressure on, hey, does it make sense to run an Airbnb or buy and hold? When you add that tax play to it, it opens up so much opportunity for a lot of people where a lot of our investors, even just breaking even on an Airbnb, for them allows them to save $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 in taxes that year they acquire some of these properties.
That's fantastic. So this is very interesting. What happens here is that they come to you. You can help them find different properties and also see if they pencil out. And then we've got the lender that can do the calculations. And then we got title that brings all the paper together. Explain a little bit. I know this is not necessarily your background, but
Sure.
Title brings the escrow all together, all the paperwork.
Yeah, and we obviously, we issue the title insurance policies. We charge a one-time premium. That's because we're not insuring anything in the future. We're only insuring things that have happened in the past. I think the more important piece of the puzzle is really the escrow service. That's the banking part of the transaction, and we're kind of in a lot of ways, we're handling all the debits and credits in the transaction, but we're also kind of playing referee with the ever-changing laws in real estate and kind of monitoring, several people involved in every transaction. So
making sure
it's a lot to
everything
keep
gets
up with.
signed in the right place. And interesting thing with title, I got a little bit of background. I used to be a title officer, but you never know it. Sometimes these clouds, these little surprises pop up that nobody even knew was there. And then the title insurance people help figure out what it is. Let's get it released. Let's get it cleaned up so that in the future we don't have that problem and you have a marketable title.
Yep,
It's an
absolutely.
important part of this. So you got to have a good team like this. Tell us a little bit about working with the team.
Yeah, so obviously having my brother be one of our lending partners is huge. You know, I have obviously unlimited access to him, and yeah, we work pretty
Now,
closely.
is he a younger brother?
18 months younger.
Okay, so there you go. It's always having the older
yeah.
brother. They're always the older brother, right? I got older brothers. I know.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, not just for my own benefit of things moving smoother, but I think clients really like when they get priority treatment, when it's like, hey, yeah, you're used to maybe it taking a week or two to get a pre-qual from a big bank or whatever, where, you know, you get my brother the documents and you'll get it like later that day or the next day kind of a thing, right? So that's been a huge part of my success too, is just having things operate so quickly.
And you really focus on the investment because Arizona, especially Maricopa County, is still a really good appreciation. Sometimes people think, oh, I'll wait for interest rates to come down. And what they don't understand is that, I mean, look at the price increase that we've had since COVID, basically. I mean, don't you agree that they should jump in the water now, even if the rates may not be exactly where they want it?
Well, you know, right now, depending on the area you're buying in, yeah, we're in a buyer's market in a lot of areas, so you can enter in with some more strength than maybe when rates come down. I think a lot of unknowns are still to play out next year, how that's going to look, but I would say consensus-wise, people are more optimistic about next year. So, yeah, I mean, jumping in now can mean negotiating a better opportunity, even if you have you know, a little bit higher rate now and you have to refinance later. But I've also seen a lot of clients who are at that cusp where, like, they've been renters, and then they make that jump and they stretch, they make that jump, and then like a year or 2, 3 years later, they come back and they're like, whoa, like we just made all this money in equity.
Yeah.
We're used to just dumping money. And even worst case scenario, if you buy a house and sell 3, 4 years later and you break even, like that's still money in the pocket versus paying rent, right?
Yeah.
So.
And how about with the fix and flips? Have you done any with that where you've got, what's the foreclosure situation now? Are we still, I know we're definitely not where we were in 08, right? Or 09.
Honestly, Chris would probably be a better person to comment on that.
What do you think on that?
We've seen a pretty big uptick. You know, we were coming from last year. You know, it was the end of the foreclosure moratoriums on government loans for FHA and VA. But you know, we've seen about a 25 to 40% increase month over month, every single month, and then in October, I think it jumped like 60%.
Wow.
So. Again, nowhere near where we were in
No,
2008.
no. I don't think
it was
we're
like 2,000 a week in
I
Maricopa
don't
County
think
back
we'll
then.
ever see a crash like that again. However, there might be some investors that would like to get a hold of you to see what we could find or they could find on a fix and flip. And then we got our lender set up, we got our title set up. How can people reach you if they want to get a hold of you, Mike?
You know, they can give me a call or text at my personal cell, 480-334-7062, or they could try to find me on social media, Mike Mazzucco Realtor. Just search literally Mike Mazzucco Realtor in Google and you'll find me.
Spell that last name.
Mazzucco.
And a phone number one more time.
480-334-7062.
And Mark for lending?
Same as him. They can reach me by my personal number at 480-242-5914, or they can just Google the lender Mark, and they'll pull up my social media.
The lender Mark.
Yes.
That's a good one. Okay.
The last name's a little tricky, so I thought I'd
The
shorten it.
lender Mark. And give us your phone number one more time.
480-242-5914.
And Chris, if there's some agents out there who want to maybe become part of this team because you got some really cool stuff going on, how do they reach you?
I always answer my phone. It's 480-953-2533. 480-953-2533.
Guys, this is a great team, especially of investors, and I love talking investment here. I mean, this is where Arizona really makes markets, so give Mike a call. Guys, thanks so much for coming down. We got music coming up saying time to wrap up the show again. If you missed something, you want more information, go to 123bz.com. All my information is there, 123bz.com. Go out, have a great evening. We'll see you next week.